Welcome to the Openly Occultic Podcast. I'm Fenecia, and thank you so much for joining me. If you've been a subscriber here, a long time subscriber, I have many plans to expand this channel, expand some of the things that we're doing around here. I made a post a few months ago, maybe 2 months ago at the most, saying that, our subscribers, we're getting plenty of subscribers, our subscribership is going up, and I have plans to go live on this channel, start going live when we get to about 50 subscribers. There's no special reason why it's 50, but I like to set little small goals. It gives me a chance, first of all, to test my equipment. We were at 27 subscribers when I said that, and now we're at 30, 32, I believe. So slowly but surely, with this niche topic and niche audience that I'm trying to grow here, we are getting up there. And within due time, we will have a thriving community. You can believe that. So for now, I'm able to test my equipment, make sure all my mics and my cameras and my editing software is working smoothly. So that's where we're at, right? And also, it just gives me time to finish the first book of our book club. But before we get into all that, I wanted to, before we get to being live and we get to the 50 subscribers, I wanted to go ahead and explain how I got into energy work. Why am I into occultic things, right? So I think now will be a great time. I have a few projects going on, but I have some time today to discuss this with you guys. Uh, maybe some of the things I say resonate with you, and I truly do hope so. So for me, it all begins in childhood, doesn't it? In my childhood, I had a great childhood. I had wonderful parents, great parents, active parents, loving parents, um, parents who I could go to discuss things, parents I can go to for help. My dad is a Vietnam vet, so the PTSD does come with that. But my mom was a great helpmeet, if you will, a great partner in life for him because she was able to balance a lot of things out. She was able to kind of direct the direction, what is it called, deflect or do what needed to be done to kind of ease tensions and take control in certain situations, so that all that trauma and all that grown up stuff wouldn't spill out onto the children, right? Me, my sister, and I. But one day I was 8 years old and my mom came into the house walking with a cane. And for me, at this age of 8, 9 years old, life changed. Like immediately, like the very next day, I started having panic attacks at school, nervous and scared that something would happen to my mom while she was at work or away from the house or while I was away from her, you know. So it impacted me immediately. My sister was 4 or 5, so but for me, it was a change almost immediately. She had got injured at work during a work incident and had gotten injured at work actually years earlier. But what happened was the incident happened. She didn't realize how it was going to affect her, and over time it got worse. And next thing you know, she realized or went to the doctor and found out she had two broken discs, vertebrae in her back, her spine, right? And I'm a child. I can only talk about the things I heard as a child, and that's what I'm gonna do. So, like I said, she came in the house with a cane. I said, "What is going on?" I jumped up, like, "What's happening?" And she said, "I'll be okay." Basically, right? I got injured at work. Whatever. I was 8, 9. She didn't say too much. But from that day forward, I started having panic attacks. That's what I know. And that was a huge part of my childhood and teenage years and younger years, even now. But we'll get to now, right? I'm 45 now. So this was a long time ago. I have a great memory, though. So don't worry about it. And all this is important. This is the journey, the things that shaped me to be who I am today, the person sitting in front of you. Um, and a lot of it can be painful. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? I got to get this story out to help others who might be going through similar things. So I'm 8 years old, and my mom came home with a broken back for all intents and purposes, right? And that's scary and it's sad. So, but we'll get through all that through the story. So, surgery was recommended, and she went to have back surgery. Um, I remember her being in the hospital bed after surgery, drowsy on medication, drowsy, drewski, I don't know. But she was drowsy on medication. I remember her, I'm going to the hospital. I remember going to the hospital, and she lifted her hospital gown and showed me her back. I was asking, you know, and she had staples going down from like down her spine, industrial staples, right? So that was very sad and scary and heartbreaking. This is my mommy, who I love very much, my best friend, my everything. So, physical rehab, she went through physical rehab, right? But she's walking with a cane now, right? At this point. And it's very, I think about Pavlov's dogs sometimes because I remember being in junior high school when she'd come visit to school. My mom was very active. She was on the PTA, she was on the library board. She was very active in the community and in our lives. So I would hear her cane when she'd come visit the school. I can hear it now. Sometimes I think about it. I'd hear her cane and I'd get excited. I know my mom's here at the school. She might be coming to my classroom, she might not, but I hear her walking. So, yeah, um I had panic attacks a lot in elementary school and junior high and even high school. I would go home. I'd call, I got to go home. I'd have a lot of panic attacks. I remember that much. I was a nerd in school. I was always a reader, right? So I read a lot. Um I can be a hermit. I could be just, on my own. I don't need a lot of people around me at all times. So, I would read a lot and just be by myself reading. And then I would think a lot, you know, process what I'm reading or thinking. And then I'm a dreamer. I'd imagine my mind would just, I just run, it just, my mind would just run with the ideas and I just, in my own mind, come up with stories. I started writing actually, even in high school. I started after high school and I was just writing short stories and stuff. But I'm jumping ahead. So, all that with the back surgery and the physical therapy and all that, I was, under 12. So, now my mom's walking with a cane and on a lot of medication. And the medication just kind of increased over time. Um, at one point, she got better. Actually, she was getting really better. What happened was now we're on a trip, a vacation, and we're coming out of a hotel. I'm about 15, 16 now. And the brickwork wasn't as well as it should have been. The bricks were crumbling, the concrete was messed up, and she slipped on these bricks and fell again. And it's sad. She had healed, she was healing, and she was, doing really good. And she was getting better. She had lost weight and that helps, right? Because it's her spine we're talking about. So less weight on the spine. I think I had even said to her, "Have you tried smoking weed?" Around that time after she fell again. I think I said that because by that time I was about 15, 16, and I had heard about weed. I hadn't smoked it, but I had heard about it. Or I might have smoked it once. I don't know. But anyway, I didn't smoke weed at that time. At all. I tried it maybe, but I wasn't a regular. I only tried it once, and I was like, I could take it or leave it. I could leave it, you know. But I said to her, "Have you tried smoking weed?" Right? Because we had heard it, it helps with pain. And she said, and that's about as much she was going to talk to me about that. So, but yeah, she had fell again. She had been getting better and she fell again. And sad business. It's very sad. Now she's on more pills. And when I say I'm talking about morphine, Demerol shots, Percocet, Percodan. She'd go get, little patches, a morphine patch. She'd get the needle, you know. She would, and then also now they're giving her medication on top of that to coat her stomach from all the medication. So now she has a bunch of medications to coat her stomach, and then now they're giving her medication to deal with depression. So because the quality of life is going down again. So now she's on all, now they give her all kind of Percocet, Prozac, I think at that time. This is the 90s, mid 90s. So yeah, now she's on this medication. I'm a teenager exploring becoming who I would be. We would sit in bed and watch movies together. Some of her favorite movies, I still think about these movies. Some of these movies has gone on to have part 2 and 3, like Rush Hour. She loved Rush Hour. She thought Chris Tucker was funny as hell. She loved Jackie Chan. She just laughed, tears streaming. And I just remember that, she never saw part 2 or 3, just little memories, right? We're talking about our moms here. Um, this situation, all this affected the whole family. And we need to talk about that. It affected my dad. My dad would take us everywhere, because my mom some days couldn't get out of bed. She had surgery, she had physical therapy, she's on these pills. She's slowly but surely getting better, and it took a few years, and then she fell again, and now she's back kind of where she started, and actually even worse. She got, I think, another broken disc, and now at this time also bone spurs, growth spurs from the surgery, arthritis type stuff. She said to me she wouldn't recommend surgery anymore when the oxygen hits the inside uh, during surgery. That's what the doctors told her, that's where the arthritic type condition and the growth spurs or bone spurs, I can't remember what the word is. I was a child. Started to these growths though were now pushing on her joint, her hips, her spine, and like I said, she was saying that these are kind of side effects from the surgery. So she's fighting with the HMO in her health care because she's not getting relief or help. Nothing's getting better. She's not healing, right? She's not healing. Things are getting worse, and it's just, now it's kind of like round 2. So I know you're kind of losing patience in so many ways. You're starting over with the healing, you know. But now it's actually a little worse. So more medication, like I said, all that. And at some point, well, what happened was I remember her one day I got up ready to go to school. Well, actually, she had been talking about this doctor's appointment she had for like a month. It's on the calendar, it's circled. She's just excited talking about this because her HMO finally agreed to let her go see a doctor in San Francisco. In fact, this was a doctor who worked on football players, 49ers, the 49ers. Steve Young, this same doctor that she was about to go to, specialist, had worked with Steve Young. So she's excited about this. She's like, I am going to get some help. I'm excited for her. We're all excited for her. So as I'm going off to school, her and my dad are getting in the car. He's taking her to go see this doctor. And I don't know, I got off of school. They weren't home yet. I sat there waiting. And next thing you know, I hear the garage door opening. I hear them coming up the steps. And my mom turned that corner, and I was there waiting, excited, waiting to hear some good news. And her face said it all. Her face was very sad. I said, Mom, what's wrong? And that she crumbled. Her face she just started crying, weeping, ran off into her room, closed the door. She didn't want to talk about it. And I went in there anyway. You know, you're not alone. And finally she was ready to talk, and she said that the doctor, she said this through sobs. She said that this specialist said to her her back was so bad he wouldn't touch her back with a 10-foot pole. Just destroyed her hope, destroyed her dreams. She had been going to chiropractors and things like that. All these memories are in my mind. I have to tell her story. She would go to chiropractors and all things like that beforehand, before that. But like I said, this day, that's the day that she stopped. I don't know. But that's the day a light went out. We'll say that. It was a little dimmer. My mom was very intelligent. My mom's read the Bible. My mom's read the dictionary, excuse me, cover to cover. She read the Bible too. We were raised Christians. My mom was a Baptist. We went to church. Um, which was another point of distress for me, right? Where's the healing? Jesus is a healer, and where there's no healing. But anyway, uh, I let that go after a time. For a few years, I let that premise go because it comes when it comes, not on our time, not on our schedule, not on when we think it should come. The healing, if you will. But anywho, yeah, that day the light went out. Um, and then one day she went to go to acupuncture. She had talked after that with this doctor. The light, like I said, got a little dimmer in her eyes, but she still hadn't given up the fight. So now she's fighting to be able to go see an acupuncture. She's fighting with the HMO and workman's comp. I don't know. She's having a battle. I know that. And incidentally, she also sued that hotel that I was telling you about, or whatever. Because that day when she fell on those bricks, I was so angry. I seen it all happening, and I just couldn't even believe this shit. I'm like, I can't believe this shit. I instinctively grabbed a camera and went over there while my dad is helping her up. I grabbed the camera. I started taking pictures of the scene. I was angry. Um, I wanted to punch the people, but I didn't hit nobody. Um, Might have cussed somebody out, but I didn't hit nobody. But anyway, so she sued her and my dad, and they got some money. I don't know what they got. I don't. I was a child, and it wasn't my business. But they got a little bit of money, nothing big. But anyway, like I said, that's a relief, right, for the health bills and all that. Medication. She's taking a lot of medication. This side table, her bedside table, is full of medication, you guys. Like I said, she was on various pain pills. She was also Percocet, Percodan, Vicodin, right? She was on all kinds of pills. And then pills to coat her stomach, and then pills for depression, just like all kind of shit. Just the whole bedside. She taking pills all the time. So she fought to go to see an acupuncturist. And finally, they let her go. My mom told me that acupuncture works. Never forgot that, but I didn't know anything about these things. I had to have been 16. I know it's in my memory banks, but I didn't know. I didn't do anything with that information. All I knew is mom said acupuncture works, and then they wouldn't let her go back ever again. That she's still fighting the HMO, and they just never approved to pay for that form of medical care. So she just, the more light went out, and she just, now she's on this medication all the time, Demerol shots. She's going to get these morphine shots. She's just on this morphine, the Vicodin, the Percocet, the Percodan, the Demerol. She's on all this stuff. She even went into rehab at some point because her tolerance level was rising up, and now she's taking more pills, and she doesn't want it. My mom was very intelligent. Okay, so she checked herself into this rehab uh, for pain tolerance, for the pain pill tolerance. So, you know, I think it was at that time I asked her about the weed. Anyway, but yeah, it was a slow descent from there because Oxycontin came out at that time. And she was on the Vicodin, and now she started taking Oxycontin. I moved out the house after high school at 18. She was, by that time, like I said, it was just a slow descent. So now she's just on these pills. You could see her kind of just sleeping more and more. Even when she was kind of woke, she talked in like a sleepy voice and wasn't all the way. She was just on pain medicine to manage the pain. She was in pain. My mom was in pain, and we knew it. She started using a wheelchair. My mom was really active. She had a lot of energy, and she was just running out of energy. She was in pain. You would see it all the time. She would wince when she'd sit down on the bed or on a chair. She had to make sure to not sit on certain couches. They're too deep. The sciatica up her leg. That's what one of the words she was saying. Sciatica up down her left leg, and that's from the surgery, from the oxygen hitting the inside of the body during his back surgery, and then that caused sciatica or arthritic type. Sciatica is like an arthritic type situation, and from the surgery itself on the vertebrae, the discs in her back, growth spurs or bone spurs. You could just see her walking, wincing. You could see the pain on her face. And now she's on all these medications, so she's drowsy and not in as much pain, but she's not as present. She's slurring, she's talking, she's in a dreamlike state. She's in and out. So she's not completely present during conversations, but she'll say a word here or there while you're talking. You think she's keeping up, but then also she's talking about whatever she's dreaming about, or it's just sad, you guys. This affects the whole family. The whole family. My sister and I, she was 4 years younger than me. We couldn't run around the house and just be as loud as kids are wont to be because mom's in pain. Shh. And dad was very protective. Hey, be quiet. He's a stern man. So, we're scared. Oh, he didn't whoop us or anything. But he had a very physical presence. He knew how to scare you with his physical presence. Okay. So we couldn't just run around and be loud. We had to go outside. We were outside. This is the 80s and the 90s. We was outside. I got my first beeper when I was 16. My mom got me a beeper for Christmas. Yeah, man, a lot of memories, a lot of great memories, but in the midst of all of it was pain, sadness, anger, helplessness, guilt, all kind of feelings. It was sad. And she was such a happy person. We were happy in general, right? As a family, we're happy. We would go places, we'd make the most out of it, the best out of it. We were celebrating all holidays, all birthdays, everything was a celebration. We'd go out to dinner, we'd go visit friends, our godparents, our cousins, our uncles, and we'd have a good time. We'd go camping and go, to movies and the theater and we just had a very active life. My mom had us in Girl Scouts and gymnastics and karate and just all kinds of, there was always activities, and we went to the library all the time. My mom would come pick me up from school, play hooky, and we'd go to the library. It was a great life, but it was also sad and painful. I had to deal with that. And it's not just me, like I said, the whole family. So I know what that's like, you know. Oxycontin had came out. Now she's taking Oxycontin. She got a prescription and she's taking Oxycontin. And suddenly, like I said, I moved out the house at 18. So, I'm the firstborn. Me and her were like two peas in a pod. And maybe she felt sad. Maybe it was very sad for her for me not to be there. Maybe I shouldn't have left. I did not know. I'm a young person trying to find my life and what I like, you know. And I was calling myself bisexual at that time. So, but I was primarily, well, I was trying both. But I was living with a woman, an older woman, you know. I just feel in hindsight that I don't know how I could feel. I felt guilt because my mom passed away suddenly when I was 20. Seizures. I was on the phone with her. I was at my girlfriend's house an hour away. And my mom called me. We were talking, and next thing you know, she started having a seizure. My sister ran. My sister stayed home from school. Little things, things that I don't feel are coincidences anymore. My sister was supposed to be at school, but she didn't want to go to school that day. My mom and I are on the phone. She started having a seizure. My sister ran and grabbed the phone. She said, "Mom is having a seizure." I said, "Call 911. I'm on my way. I'll meet you at the hospital." An hour away. I was flying down this freeway. I'm not going to exactly tell y'all where I was at, but I was going 90, between 90 and 100. And at some point, I had to pull over because I had a panic attack, right? I had a panic attacks since the day after she walked in that house with that cane, y'all. I had panic attacks quite often. So I pulled over and threw up on the side of the road a few times. And then, my girlfriend said, "You want me to drive?" I said, "Yes." And so she jumped in the driver's seat. And I'm just in the passenger seat, just, oh my God. We get to the hospital. They had taken tests, or I don't know, taken a blood sample. I don't know what they did at that point. By that point, by the time I got there, but the doctor came in short. I remember walking into the hospital room. Her nose was red. She's in the bed wearing her gown. Her nose is red. I said, "Why are you?" She was crying. That's why her nose is red. I said, "Why are you crying?" I said, "You okay?" And she said, "I thought I was gonna die." I said, "No, you're not gonna die, right?" No, you know. The doctor came in after a while and he said that, now listen close. He said, your test shows PCP and some other stuff in your system. She looked at him and said, "Doctor, that's blasphemous." My mom don't do dope. Come on, be serious. She and doesn't. What it was a combination of all the medication she was on, but also primarily that combination of Vicodin and Oxycontin. This mixture created a chemistry in her system. They took a sample of her blood and said, "Hey, it looked like you got PCP in your system." She said, "No, sir." Anyway, they pumped her stomach, kept her there for a few hours, I guess, monitoring her. I'm there the whole time. My dad is there. He left from work. We're all there. Um, and now they're like, "You can go home." They pumped her stomach and gave her a little pain medicine before they let her out, talking about you can go home. Anyway, I did get the opportunity. My dad went and got the car and pulled it up to the door. They're wheeling her out. She wheels her out in the wheelchair. I'm there. My sister's there. She still is at home. She got in the car. I said, I love you, Mom. She's in this wheelchair. She looked up at me. She said, I love you too, Fiend. And I got to have that moment. She went home. Maybe took another pain pill after whatever they gave her wore off. Maybe not. Who knows? She had another seizure at home later on that evening. And the ambulance came and had another grand mal seizure in the ambulance on the way home. I didn't know until the next morning because my dad and they didn't call me, and it's all right, because I was in college, and my dad didn't want me to. So I called the next morning. Dad said Mom's back in the hospital. I said, "Oh, I'm on my way." He said, "No, go to class and come home when you get out of class." And I did just that. And when I got home, my dad was there, and I said, "How's Mom?" And he said, "They said your mom has no brain activity." And I just kind of sat, kind of collapsed on the stairs in shock. I was 20. This was October. Uh, I said, "What does that mean?" No, knowing what that means, but I was just like, "What the hell are you talking? What are you saying to me?" He said, "She's brain dead." Mm, mm, mm. Sad business, y'all. It's sad, sad business. We dealt with all that. Even the hospital called the next day or something asking if we wanted to donate her organs. I'm glad I answered the phone and not my dad. I'm glad he didn't have to hear all that, but I said hell no. And don't call back here asking us that shit no more, because I didn't want them to call and he answer the phone and have to deal with that. So I said hell no. It was just a natural reaction. I wasn't worried about organ donating or none of that shit. No, don't cut her up anymore. Leave her be. We know what's going on. Damn, we don't need an autopsy. We don't want to donate no organs. Just leave her alone. It's sad because if she was to come out of the situation, the question would be how present would she be? Would she be like a vegetable? My mom was the most intelligent person we knew. Between me and my dad, we didn't know nobody more intelligent. She would hate to be a vegetable trapped in this body, mind maybe thinking, maybe not, and just no. That became the question. Do we just unplug the ventilator and let her be, let her rest? She was in pain, a lot of pain. And all her quality of life consisted of was, being in a doped up state to be able to tolerate the pain. That's not a life. It's just sad, man. It's some sad shit. I'm glad to be talking to you guys about it. Because it took me years to deal with the pain of this, you know. What we got going on here is a transmutation of the pain. Finally, after years of dealing with the grief, the depression, the guilt. Listen, me and my dad were sitting on the couch about 6 months after my mom passed away. We're just sitting on the couch. Listen, the house is empty. I was closest to my mom. Me and my dad never really just kind of kicked it like that. I'm sitting on the couch because where else am I gonna go? It's my own dad. I'm just sitting on the couch. He's watching football. I ain't never been into football, but I gotta be around my parent. I'm just sitting there quietly with my dad, and he's sitting there quietly, and we're just sitting there. This is our life now, right? It's like the sadness didn't stop, you know. And then Dateline, it was like a break. Dateline came on. I don't know, but they said, do you know? They said, special report or be careful taking Oxycontin and Vicodin. It could cause seizures and death. That's exactly what I did. Now y'all tell us. See this shit? Now you tell us. Well, we know. Now we know. It's too late. Damn. But yeah, so we moved out of the childhood home. Just life was completely different. But we did everything we could as a family to stay together because we knew our unique situation, and family is everything. Is the mindset of my dad and just us in general. It was like family is very important. So trials and tribulations, growth. I've lived more time with my dad and my sister than I lived with my mom. We've all lived more longer than any of us have with her. So it's been a journey. I'm learning my dad, and I love him. I'm thankful. I have no regrets. Now it's in hindsight, right? Now I'm older, wiser. So there's no regrets. It's just lessons and opportunities to see, and I see. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day, and she said I'm sad. She could hear it in my voice. I'm a joyful person, but yes, there's a sadness there. I don't know why I brought it up, but I hear you. Anywho, so there's a transmutation of all that pain, sadness, guilt, all those feelings over time. I started to transmute that. So, I started researching the Bible and biblical history. That's what happened. I started researching the Bible and biblical history. Now, I came from a Christian household, and now my mom is dead, and my main thing was how do I get to heaven? Like it became a mission for me to get to heaven to be with her again. Right? If anybody's there, she's there. I need to like really understand and know how to do it. We heard about, if you believe in Jesus, whoop whoop whoop. But I'm like, no, I just want to make sure there's not more to this. You know what I mean? I want to make sure because I'm into research. I'm into getting it right. I'm into organization. I'm into concrete evidence. I'm a truth seeker. I don't mind putting in the time to make sure I got all the instructions right. You know what I mean? So it became a mission to get to heaven. And in that journey, I went from a Baptist to a Seventh-day Adventist to a Hebrew Israelite. And then towards the end of my Hebrew Israelite journey, and I was a Hebrew Israelite for about 5 or 6 years, towards the end of that, I started going off into the Dead Sea Scrolls. The whole time of my Hebrew walk, I'm reading not just the Old and New Testament, I'm reading the Septuagint, I'm reading the Tanakh, I'm reading the King James Bible, of course. I'm reading the books that we're taking out. I'm reading the book of Enoch. I'm reading the book of Jasher. I'm reading the book of Jubilees. Um, and then when I got to the New Testament, now it's like when I'm at that level, now I'm like, it's got to be a little bit more. I ran into a book by a guy named Jackson Snyder, or a podcast by a guy named Jackson Snyder, but there was a book also called the New Testament Code. In this book, now I started hearing about more about the Dead Sea Scrolls and connections with Islam. It's been quite a journey, you guys, but I was here for it. I'm still here for it. But I'm here talking to you about how this openly occultic podcast came to be, and what all I'm talking about. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about energy work, alchemy. People call it witchcraft. People call it magic. All kind of things. Paganism. I don't care about slurs or words that people make up and try to attribute definitions to. At the end of the day, all any of that is energy work, and I want to keep it really simple, okay? Because there's some people that could do bad energy work or good energy work. That ain't none of my concern. And that's why I'm making this video, so we know who I am and what I'm talking about. I'm not one to use dark energy too much, but I don't mind being the light and the dark. So I don't just negate negative anything, because there's a time and a place for everything. If you're feeling something negative, somebody around you, something, it might be it's your intuition, whatever the case may be, pay attention to it. Don't act like it doesn't exist. So I don't have a problem with it. Um, but for me, I'm a light worker. I'm into healing. And you know why. I'm telling you the story about my mom, okay? But now I got to talk about the journey to the occult part, so that you can understand the spirituality, or the searching for reality, right? Because my mom is going to church. She's a believer in Jesus. She's there for it. She's praying for healing. She didn't get it. These doctors are giving her all kind of pills and medication, and whoop whoop whoop, is piling up. Nothing. There's no healing. It's never a time where this shit just diminishes. And now you're on your last pill. You don't need this pill anymore. You're good. None of that. You know. Um, and then keeping in mind, she went to the specialist. Right? Steve Young, the 49ers. He said he wouldn't touch her back with a 10-foot pole. Okay? And then the acupuncture. He said it worked. I wasn't thinking about none of that as a Hebrew Israelite, though. Not in the beginning. Towards the end. Like I said, I'm reading this book called the New Testament Code. Now I'm researching the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now I'm perceiving and seeing the connections with Islam in this New Testament, or through the Old Testament, whatever the case may be, because now I'm into linguistics. I'm not just reading the Bible, I'm researching biblical history. I'm dealing with geography. I'm dealing with migrations. I'm dealing with linguistics. I'm dealing with language. I'm dealing with archaeology. Like, I'm just a whole researcher, a one man band. You know what I'm saying? I'm just, and my mind. I wanted to be a biochemist in high school. My junior year, I wanted to be a biochemist. The teacher made us write a paper, an opinion piece on cloning. And I thought about it all day and all night. I was really thinking about it, because I was a Christian. And I was just, my answer was, I don't know about this cloning thing, because does the clone have a soul? That's where I was coming from. I'm like, does a clone have a soul? And is this fair? This isn't nice. Why are we doing this? What are we doing? I can't remember the paper, but that's really the gist of what I said. And this lady gave me a D. She was black. I don't know if she was African. I don't know. I was 16 years old. I was a junior in high school. She gave me a D on this paper, y'all. And I had never had a D. I was an A and B student, really, or mostly an A student. Um, I was part of the GATE program. You know, they tested me and said I was a genius. I felt some kind of way about that label at that time. I was in fifth grade when they said that to me, going to the fifth grade. And at that time, you're 10 years old in the fifth grade, I had the perception to be weary of that label. I didn't have the knowledge or wisdom, but I was like, it's something here that is off and I don't like it. And I wanted to distance myself from it. So they put me in this gate class. I wasn't comfortable. The teacher was kind of weird to me. I wasn't happy. She was kind of mean too. And they called her a witch. I said I didn't like this no more, and mom took me out. In the sixth grade, I was out the gate program. But I had been in the gate program. And then furthermore, when I got to be around 14, there was a group called People to People. And this was a group who took the smartest people in the county, in each of the counties. So I was the representative for the county, for my county, and they took us. We had a choice to go to Africa or the UK. I chose the UK. I don't know why, but I did. And so they took us during the summer, the whole summer, through the UK. I had homestays. I stayed at two different people's house. One person's house in Ireland, somebody's house in the UK. I went to the beach in Hastings. I traveled the UK all summer when I was 14. England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. And I have pictures. And I got a picture of myself sitting on a throne in Ireland or Scotland. It was a dilapidated castle, but not really. It was kind of dilapidated. It was a chair, though. It was a modern day chair, I think. I don't know. It was plush, like Victorian era. I don't know. But I have a picture of me sitting on this throne, and I find it interesting now looking back. I'll have to discuss that on one of my other YouTube channels. Because there's something there, and I don't quite. I put my finger on it. I don't know if I quite want to talk about it right now because it's a lot. Um, but I do recommend reading a book called um, Irish Wisdom in the Bible and Pyramids. Irish Wisdom in the Bible and Pyramids. You should read that. I read it as an audiobook right here on YouTube, and it's like a long time. It's like either 7 to 11 hours. It might be 7 hours long. I listened to this whole thing, and I need to go back to it and kind of splice up certain parts of it. But it will almost be too tedious because there was important information sprinkled throughout the whole thing. So I just recommend you go listen to it on your own, the whole thing, and you'll learn a lot. And then come back and please talk to me about it because we need to discuss that too. Somebody need to be discussing some of the shit I be reading because I be running across some amazing stuff, and I don't have any too many people to talk about it with. That's why I want to build this. That's why we're building this community. But I wanted to start this. I wanted to go ahead and make this episode and put all this on the record about the story. So I'm researching the Dead Sea Scrolls. I'm researching the Essenes. I'm researching the priesthood, the order of Melchizedek. Okay. I'm testing Jesus, right? Jesus said the only sin was blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, not don't believe me. He said, try all things, test the spirit. So now I'm at the point finally in my Christian walk where I'm strong enough to go ahead and challenge the hero of the whole story. Is this dude really what he's saying he is? I'm testing it. Why not? Test all things. So it takes strength to do that, though. It does. It takes strength, mental, spiritual. You got to get to a place where you're not afraid of going to hell. You really do. To be able to test Jesus, come on. So I got to that point, and now I'm reading outside books from the New Testament because before I was reading Old Testament books that were taken out, right? The Book of Maccabees, the Apocrypha, the Book of Jubilees, really the old. I had 2 volumes of the Pseudepigrapha, 2 big volumes, and I'm reading a lot of these books, but definitely the Book of Jubilees. I'll try to show some pictures so that you know what I mean. The Book of Jasher, the Book of Enoch, and I'm hearing there's more. Um, but I stopped researching the Bible back in that way a few years ago. So at this point of the journey, now I'm reading writings that were taken out of the New Testament, right? We had to distinguish, we had to deal with the Nicene Council and know that somebody put these books together to create this New Testament, right? We don't know any. Whose name is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Like, these are like Americanized names, are they not? Like, who's in the desert with these names? These aren't even the real translations of their names. But anyway, now I'm researching the letters. I'm researching Paul. Okay. We also read the book of Josephus. So I read the whole book of Josephus because they say historically the only real account of Jesus is in the book of Josephus. I don't know if y'all know that because now I'm testing Jesus. So the only historical account they say of even the war of 70 AD between Rome and the Jews, that history and the history of Jesus, the real proof that he existed is in the book of Josephus. Well, my group and I, we read the whole book of Josephus, cover to cover. And then we're researching some of the things being said in Josephus. The book of Josephus is very problematic. I said it. This is problematic, and I'm just throwing that out there for anybody on their search. Anyway, now I got the book. I have a New Testament. I have like stories of Thomas, Mary, the life of Jesus when he was young, growing up in Egypt. I'm gonna have to show you the book, but I will. Now I'm reading the Aquarian Gospel. I'm reading Essenic Writings. Essene is the word Essene. And you run into them in the Dead Sea Scrolls. You just run into all these things. And if you were to backtrack Essene, you would run into the word therapeutai. This is like the Essenes when they were in Egypt, way before Jesus came to be. So, I'm backtracking, I'm dealing with history, I'm researching for real. Like, my mission was to get to heaven. We know that. And I'm not playing with it. So, I'm reading Essenic Writings, the Gospel of the Holy 12. Um, and there's a few more. I'm a reader and I know my stuff. So at some point, reading the Gospel of the Holy 12, I saw a passage where it was saying that when Jesus was in Egypt, he learned about the trees, the healing properties of water and herbs and crystals. It said something else. I have a screenshot of it. I'm going to show you exactly what it said in the book. Check it out. And so once I saw that, and it said a few other things in this book, I read this book in real time. As I was reading this book, this Gospel of the Holy 12, I was changing and transforming in real time as I was reading it. As I read that book, I instantly became a vegetarian. I instantly was like herbs, and I instantly was ready for crystals. And what do you know? Within the week, I randomly found a crystal place like 2 miles away in the woods, like in the backwoods. And it was a white couple. They were old. They had crystals, a whole crystal shop at their house, and they were ready to close shop. I got there, me and my sister and my nephew. He was young. I was so excited. Been on this journey the whole time. I was very excited, very happy, very joyful. So if you sense a little sadness in my voice, it's because I know how life can be. And I'm sad for anybody that's going to have to go through that journey because I learned I had to go through the journey. There are no regrets. I've learned from it. It just can be sad. You know what I mean? So I feel for the people. That's why there's a little sadness in my voice. I feel for the people. I know it's hard. It's a hard journey. Good luck because it's a lot. It's a long journey too, and there's layers and levels to this shit. Good luck, because you can get distracted and go off on a tangent and lose the focus of the goal. So good luck in your journey. I'm learning. I'm at the couple's house or at their shop that's at their house. They had rows and rows. It was a whole store on their property. And they're like going out of business. They trying to get rid of all these crystals. It's like 15 cents, 25 cents. They'll say, hey, you can give me 75 cents for that one. Well, me and my sister got bags of crystals. Didn't know the names of these crystals. Didn't know what chakra point to put which crystal on. Didn't know which crystal did what. Didn't know nothing. But we stocked up. And we're thankful. Thank you so much. Went home and I promise you, within a few days, one of my study buddies who I read the book of Josephus with, he had an accident, a car accident, and his neck was hurting. I said, hey, I just got a bunch of crystals. I'll mail you some so they can help you heal. He said, okay. So I'm sitting there looking at my crystals and I'm like, which one does what? I don't even know. I don't even know the names of these crystals. I literally just got these crystals and I literally just read about Jesus using these crystals and knowing about them. So now I'm going from the spirituality to Christianity into metaphysical is what's happening in real time. And metaphysical is about energy work, guys. So I didn't know which crystal did what. So I said, I just grabbed a handful of them. I promise you. I grabbed like a scattering, multiple colored, all kind of different colors. Just grabbed a bunch of them and put them on my neck and laid on the couch. Because I wanted to test which one would help with his neck. Right? Which one helps with the neck? That was not a good experiment. How am I going to figure out which one did what and it's all in a pile on my neck? How am I going to even know which one? Girl, I was doing my best. I was excited and I wanted to help. Healing is what I'm about. So, um, what happened was very quickly, it was like it was very cartoonish. I felt like my head expanded like a cartoon, like a balloon. It didn't hurt. It was just like, what the hell? And then went back and, is that like a time space warp? What is that? It didn't hurt. I felt it, but it's not like you feel it like my head really expanded. I just kind of felt space increasing and then decreasing. What is that feeling? I don't know what do you even call that. All I can do is describe what it felt like. It felt like a cartoon. It didn't hurt, but it felt like my head expanded like a balloon and then went back down. And something happened in that. A click, an alignment happened. It's like I suddenly understood why the metaphysics. Oh man, it was up at that point. Now I didn't never send them the crystals because I didn't know which one did it, but that's my story. I know crystals work. I have hands-on experience. An alignment, a clarity happened. I was out of Christianity at that point. There was no Christianity. Next thing you know, my mind was like the therapeutai or Essenes were in Egypt before they were called Essenes. Way back at the beginning, kind of like towards the beginning of the Old Testament. Moses, maybe Joseph in Egypt, maybe I don't know, but way back then, the therapeutai. So that's why I was reading the Gospel of the Holy 12. That's why I read all that, and that's why I went and got crystals and I had my experiment. There was a clarity that happened though, because now I said to myself, I I can't just be dealing with Hebrew Israelites and Jerusalem. I gotta now go dig into the information in Egypt. I said in Iran because of Zoroastrianism. I said we gotta go to India because of Buddhism. Like it's like in my mind, I said I know exactly where we gotta go. We gotta get this information from these other areas. We don't have to just stay in Jerusalem. Is really what it was. I was like, no, we got to do more because Jesus was in Egypt, and then you have the Gospel of Thomas and all that. That's in the Aquarium Gospel and all those type of things. That's in India, right? And then you have Zoroastrianism with the Kabbalah. That's Iran. I don't know, but I just wrote all these things down in my journal and I talked to my friend, one of my study buddies. I said, hey, what we need to do next is go to Egypt. We got to go to Egypt. We got to go to Iran. We got to go to India. We got to go. I was like naming locations and not saying we physically need to go there, saying in our research, this is where we need to be going next. You know what I mean? Persia, that's India. You know what I mean? Like Babylon, Iraq. Come on. I was like, something clicked. I don't know what it was, but it definitely was out of the Bible at that point. Now it was like it just happened. I wasn't trying to. I researched my way out of Christianity, out of the box. The rebinding, right? Religion, rebinding. I got my way up out of there. I was like, this is bigger than Jews or Hebrew Israelites or Jerusalem. This is bigger. This is it. I don't know, but it was like a clarity. Anyway, like I said, so now I'm transforming. I became a vegetarian. I started fasting. I became a vegetarian. Like I was eating a burger while reading this book, and I became a vegetarian while reading this book. I swear. I put the burger down. I felt like Jesus was in the room looking at me, watching this burger. Like, look what you're doing to that animal that didn't do shit to you. It was a battle with the ego, but it wasn't even a hard battle. I stopped eating the burger right then. I was done. Now I'm back to eating meat now, and I don't know if I should feel bad about it. So we'll talk about that at another time. Um, because plants are alive too, right? You eat them, right? I don't know. I don't know. But I don't deal with feelings of guilt or any of that anymore. I try not to deal with any feelings of guilt. So I don't know. I'm not a vegetarian now, but then I did. And this was like in mid 2016. So still was like studying a few more things in the Bible because um I started finding evidence of vegetarianism being required in the Bible all through the Old Testament. So I still studied more in the Bible, but I was definitely one foot in, one foot out. And the reason it was one foot out was because how can metaphysical things, how can the reality of the universe, how could cosmic laws, how could sacred geometry be a sin? So I didn't have a problem moving off into metaphysical territory. I don't feel like occultic things, energy work, metaphysics is bad, is a sin. No knowledge of reality and how reality works, sacred geometry, healing through herbs, crystals, understanding that there's nothing wrong with that to me. Some people feel that way, and then I'll show them different verses in their Bible. Come on, the programming has to be broken, and that's why we're here at the Openly Occultic Club. And then now, at that point, now of course, now I'm a vegetarian. I'm using crystals. I'm learning crystals. I'm learning herbs. I'm using herbs. I started taking harataki for years before COVID hit. So I think around 2016, I started taking harataki. And um, I got to tell you guys this whole story, huh? So I started taking harataki. I'm just dealing with herbs. I'm using herbs, learning about them. I'm just on a vegetarian. I'm fasting. I'm trying to kill parasites, right? Taking parasite cleanses. I'm reading a lot of Gnostic writings. Yeah, I'm reading a lot of Gnostic writings and books and learning higher vibrational things that make sense, that's logical to me. Um, and then it started now, of course, the thought of the acupuncture came into play. I'm learning about chakras and energy. I'm learning about astrology, the planets. I'm learning what is a planet. It might be an energy point, right? Like a chakra. A planet might be like a chakra, right? A portal, an energy center. But yes, I started to understand and learn about the acupuncture and how it could have helped my mom make her feel better. We're talking about stagnant energy. First of all, we're learning about the kundalini, right? The spine. Come on, the serpent. We're learning about the kundalini once you start going down this path. Excuse me, let me get my necklace. Once you start going down that path, you start learning about the serpent, the kundalini energy, the spine, the chakra points. Come on, the nervous system. I started learning about the body. What is happening at this point is learning love for yourself. See, at first I was cool with Jesus just because he sounded like a cool guy. This guy is not. Why are these people so mad at this man? Why are you mad? Because he's blind, curing people who are blind, curing people of epilepsy and shit. Like, what's the problem? Getting people off of crutches and canes and shit like my mom. Why are y'all mad about this? So from there, it's just about high vibrational thinking and learning to remove the ego from yourself. These are kind of the first steps of getting out of the ego. And now we're into metaphysical things and learning about how to love yourself, learning about energy, and then you apply it to yourself. Like, listen, we're talking about organic, holistic healing. They didn't have healing like that, like what I was looking for in the church. I didn't see it. My mom didn't experience it. So, but she did tell me acupuncture helped. I got to run with that. This is my life. This is testimony. These are people's words being said to me about their experiences. And I ain't forgot. So now I'm hearing about that. And I started taking harataki. Um, they call it yogi food or the super fruit. Um, it helps decalcify the pineal gland. It helps detox the blood. So much stuff. I was partying because now I'm not a Christian and I kind of lost my religion. So I kind of took the opportunity to backslide a little bit. I started drinking, you know, and things like that. So, and I smoked cigarettes. So I noticed that I could stay up all night drinking and smoking cigarettes and meditating and shit like that. Um, and in the morning, since I'm taking this hard talkie regularly, I'm not dealing with a lot of asthmatic, a lot of smoke in the lungs. My skin was clearing up. I was losing weight, and I wasn't changing my diet too much. I was just kind of taking this hard taki and trying to be a vegetarian. But in hindsight, I was eating a lot of bread. So I'm not going to be losing a lot of weight just eating bread. Eating a lot of bread. I was eating a lot of beans. I just feel like I was eating things, starchy things, a lot of potato chips, a lot of I was still eating starchy things. So I was losing weight using the hard taki though. It adds to weight loss. It's a parasite cleanser. It cleans your blood. It's just removing toxins. I stopped eating, I've been stopped eating pork by this point. Hadn't eaten pork for years at this point. All this is from like 2012 to about 2017, 2018. Excuse me. Okay, so I noticed the effects of the hard taki, the healing that was taking place within myself. I was taking mushrooms, right? I was just like, I was doing a lot of, I love to research. If I don't make time for anything else, I'm gonna make time to research. I would feel guilty. In those days, I feel guilty if I didn't research something for at least an hour every day. I'd feel bad if I wasn't reading, right? So, um, I saw the benefits of the hard taki. I was taking a lot of herbs, just growing in knowledge about herbs, mushrooms, tree bark, just all kind of healing things, right? And just knowledge, just soaking it up, right? I was soaking it up and loving it. Um, I had all kinds of herbs in my house. I had Now at this point I've learned about ayahuasca. So, and I took it steps further. I'm ordering ayahuasca off the internet and other herbs that are really rare. And I'm learning about different recipes. I'm learning about magic mushrooms, amanita. I read a book about amanita. It was an amazing book. I got that. Um, I was in my kitchen cooking. I was getting cappy vines and cooking them in a pot. I was really working to make my own ayahuasca recipe. I was working on growing mushrooms to make my own amanita mushroom wine. Um, I have all kind of pictures of me in the kitchen dealing with different herbs, cooking in the kitchen, experimenting. I ordered a few different type of cactuses. I was on the search for DMT. So I was working on extracting DMT or just experimenting with some DMT in some way. So I would get different cactuses or different plants that had DMT in it, hallucinate, the spirit molecule is what they call DMT. I was just reading all kind of books, you guys, and I got all these books. I was reading so much and I learned so much and was so thankful. And 2020 came around and I got sick. I was just feeling sick. I'm a pretty healthy person. At this point, it's been about 3 or 4 years that I've been taking herbs and using crystals and meditating and learning breath work and in the kitchen dealing with it. Listen, why am I sick now? Really? And it was a sickness. It was something, I felt it in my body. I'd never felt this way. It was strange. My balance was off. My ears were popping. I couldn't drink water. I could only eat those big grapes, but not even all at once. I would have to take bites out of this grape. I would eat it slowly, and the juice was great, and it was like the only thing I could eat. My dad came to my house. He lives nearby. He just dropped by randomly to bring me some shit he done picked up at Home Depot. He just, be bringing stuff over sometimes. I wasn't looking for him. He got a whole dolly cart. It was more than a dolly. It was like a huge type of. He brought something. It's in my closet now. I ain't even used it or took it out the box. He came over and I opened the door and I said, "Wow." He had this stuff. I said, "Thank you, Dad." So he started to bring it into the house down my hallway, and I said to him, "You should go. I'm sick, and I don't want you to get it. I've never felt like this." So he left. I've never told my dad to get out. But something was peculiar. I didn't know what it was. I went in my kitchen, in my pantry. I had nettles. I had amanita mushrooms. I threw a few amanita caps in a pot, boiled the water. It was like a soft boil, but I boiled it, uh, light boil, for about 10 minutes. And then I turned that boil off, and I had some nettle leaves, and I threw some nettle leaves in that pot with the amanita. Let it kind of just soak in that hot water and just kind of stew for about 10-15 minutes. And I poured it in a glass, through the strainer or whatever I had, cheesecloth, whatever I had, and I drank it. I felt the sickness break with it inside me that day. I also had a bunch of hard taki. I felt it break inside me that day. But for 3 more days after that, I was still bouncing back from that peak that I had reached. It still took 3 days. I was still sick. And I had never felt that way before. Shortly thereafter, they started talking about Corona, COVID-19, all this stuff. You heard. It got really bad. I could just imagine how bad it was for people who, because I took this stuff with the first sign of something is really, really off in my body. Now remember, I had for the past 4 or 5 years been on a deep journey learning my body, listening to my body, loving my body. I'm detoxing, I'm fasting, I'm meditating, I'm doing breathing exercises. I'm learning. Meditation is a process, right? So from the beginning, it was only like meditate for about 30 seconds or a minute, but you get better and better, and it becomes 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, 15, 30 minutes, however long. And then you start learning you can do it anywhere. You don't have to be just in a quiet room. I can meditate with the music and the TV on. If you just learn to focus and tune everything out, next thing you know, you don't hear nothing. The sound goes away and you're in the zone. Yes, I've been practicing these things for years when that happened. So I knew something was wrong with me and I had everything I needed on deck. I knew what to do. I threw that amanita, I threw in them nettles. Listen, understand the healing of mushrooms. You got to know how mushrooms work to know how important it was that was my first thought to grab a mushroom, first of all. You got to think about it. And then I had some nettles, which was known for cold, to help with colds in the immune system. I felt it break, but 3 days afterwards, so I could just imagine how these other people feel or felt and went through. A lot of people died. And then the stimulus checks came. I said, now's my time. I used my stimulus checks to start Cedar Grove Herbs. Bought the website, bought the domain name, found distribution. It was a process. It took time. We got my products and got it, got good prices. Um, Redid the website. It was a journey. But I took that initial stimulus check and then the one after it. I invested in myself. I said, now's the time, and my first product's gonna be hard taki. Because I've been taking it for years and I know that it helps everybody. It helps with your lungs. And that was the main thing we were dealing with COVID. So I knew it would help with breathing, respiratory. I knew it would help detox, right? Now, I'm a researcher. So for me, the things they were saying about Corona, I'll leave it at that. But for me, I tie it into, so the word Corona ties to the word sun, right? Um, for me, we're dealing with solar flares or something coming from the sun to raise everybody's vibration. And if your body's in a toxic state, it can't handle that raise in vibration, depending on how toxic your body is. So for me, I'd already been clearing out my body before this happened, right? Thank you. I'm thankful. Um, I had already been clearing out a lot of these toxins. So I can imagine the people that passed away, all that they were dealing with, because I caught it early. I was perceptive, and my body was already, in a less toxic state than it had been in all my life. Because I'd been fasting. I'd fasted a few times, more than about 10 days. So I had been fasting a lot, just getting rid of toxins in general in my body, and then not just the toxic food and shit in my body, but the toxic thoughts. I've been getting rid of that, right? Learning to not dwell on toxic thoughts. Because now I'm in the realm of metaphysics and energy work and negative vibrations and positive vibrations and all that. So, I could just imagine a person whose body is super, super toxic, how they felt. And that's just how I thought about the whole corona situation. And personally, I don't think it's done and over with. I just think that round is over with. But I feel like it's all about the vibration of the planet raising up, and the things that can't handle that die off. But death is just transformation. They'll be back in another body that's less toxic, and they can live in that new reality that's being built. But I felt like I knew what to do. I did it, and I said, "This is what the people need to help raise their vibration. They need to know about Harataki." Um, so I started. That was my first product with Cedar Grove Herbs, and I was selling on Etsy, getting sales, building clientele, building customers, return customers, repeat customers, getting great reviews. The problem was Etsy at some point was mad at this Harataki and Trifala, and I think it was another herb that I had on there. They were like, this is not approved by the FDA, and they took me down. This was in 2022 or 2023 when they took me down. But from like 2009, 2019, 2020, from about 2020, about 2 3 years, I was making plenty of money. The money stopped. It was sad, right? Now I had to figure out, because I wasn't building my brand name as well as I should have. And I'm using a third party to get sales, and they have all the control over my sales, because as soon as they kick me off, now my customers, a lot of people don't know how to find me or even know that I exist, right? Um, so now I kind of start over, spending a lot of money with Google and Facebook for ads and stuff, and it was just like you're just throwing it into a dark pit. You're not really reaping it. I don't know. Maybe I need help. Maybe I need help with that. I never took a marketing class or a business class. I'm naturally good at selling things and having the gift of gab, but I should just say maybe I need help, because I'm not afraid to ask for help at this point. So if you can help me with that, let me know. In the meantime, I said, well, I guess what all I can do, since I don't have a lot of money, is go ahead and just do my own marketing. And that's where the YouTube channel came in, right? And of course, I was trying to make different commercials and just trying to put out different videos. I wasn't quite sure of what I wanted to focus on primarily, because this topic includes all things. I can go from many different directions. So I'm just procrastinating and overthinking it. So I said, you know what, at the very least, I can start a book club. I love to read. And of course, at this point, around this time, I had heard about human design. And I felt human design is very important, primarily because I think cosmic human design is very important. So before we could get to that, before a person could get there, though, I felt like they had to learn or hear about human design. So I started a book club, and the first book for the Openly Occultic Book Club was the Definitive Book of Human Design. And we're almost to the end of that. And we're picking the book for the next book. Which book are we going to read next? It's either going to be on magic or on tarot. We have a vote or a poll going on the YouTube channel, so go ahead and put in your vote to break the tie between magic and tarot, because as soon as we're done with this definitive book of human design, we're going to jump into that. But yeah, so why openly occultic? Well, my mom did not know anything about acupuncture, but she sure came home and said that it helped. So I don't want these things to be hidden. This word occultic simply means mysterious, secret, or hidden. All that has happened is somebody who hates healing has hidden these things from everybody else. So if you really want healing, or you really want to know about certain mysteries or certain things, you're going to have to dive off into occultic literature, because, that's what it is. It means hidden. mysterious. So I call it openly occultic. We're discussing hidden, mysterious, secret things, but we're doing it openly because this shouldn't be a secret. Everybody should be able to heal. And listen, if anybody knows, I know about how bad health can ruin the quality of life. And I know how one person in your family in bad health can affect everybody in the family. It's so sad. You know, I have so many different stories and that I could tell with a message in the story, and it will happen over time. That's why we're doing this podcast. That's why I'm doing this podcast. I keep saying we, but it's literally just me here. So I don't know why I do that. It was from the time of being an Israelite, I guess, or when I was with a huge crew of people all the time. I would say we, but and then I got into the pattern of saying we because me and God, me and me, I don't know. We we wish you well on your journey, and I want you to have a better quality of life. I want people to learn about energy work because I want them to stay holistic. I want them to stay in the mind frame of organic healing, holistic things, natural things, particularly because we have this AI thing going on. We have computer brain chips coming, this digital world, things are getting dicey. Uh, lines are being blurred, and I feel like we need to be educated. My mom wasn't educated on acupuncture, chakras, I guess. Maybe she had heard about it, but she had never really dove deep into it. In my lifetime, I had all these different experiences to help shape who I am as a person today and guide me into learning things my mom didn't know, my ancestors might not have known. You know what I'm saying? It's just about the continuation of her seed, their seed. So in this lifetime, I got the opportunity. The way I'm made and built, I make time to research. I have the opportunity to worry about spiritual things and worry about quality of health and learn that nothing matters more than your health. You can't buy good health. My mom went to go buy some good health from the doctor Steve Young, and he said he wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. My mom was tracking down experts, trying to get help, and none came. I don't want another family to have to experience these hard things. But I do know that it's going to happen, and I want you to know you have a place here. I want to build a community for you, your family, the children, because I was a child. My sister was a child. Thankful to have learned some of these hard lessons, but I have friends, the majority of my friends still have their moms to this day. They don't have any idea what it's like to lose the nucleus of your family. They don't even know. They don't know that you have to fight to live after some shit like that. I was suicidal. I didn't care about life. I did not care about life. I became an alcoholic almost overnight. I drank my dad's whole bottle of Hennessy. He was like, "You drink all that?" Yeah. And he just kind of shook his head. I was 20, but what can you do? I'm dealing with this shit. And I was very suicidal. I didn't care at all about life. And even when good things happened, it was almost like it was bad because mom's not here to celebrate with me. I couldn't hear my mom's voice. My birthday would come around. I just want to sleep through my birthday. Holidays would come. I don't care about no holidays. My mom was big on holidays. My mom loves Halloween. I just, in my mind, all the memories. And the memories that you and your family have created. And all I'm saying is, I want to be here. This is my mission, one of my missions. I'm in this mission for real. This is a personal mission for me. I don't want people to forget that there is healing. I don't want them to get too caught up in this circle of doctors and so-called experts. And I think we learned about that through COVID. So, I feel like I started this when I did for a reason, and I'm going to keep growing, even though I started making money and then I stopped. Now I'm doing what I can to market it a little bit more and get you guys to understand where I'm coming from, and offer different things, right? I want to start having stories on holistic healing. And I also want to have stories on AI in healthcare. So these are some series that I got planned, and we're going to start rolling it out pretty soon. So thank you so much for being here and subscribing, listening, following, sharing, commenting, letting me know. Um, because it was a somewhat lonely journey, but we're born alone. And if we get sick, we're alone. If we go to jail, we're alone. When you're depressed, it's you and your mind. You're alone. You got to fight it. And when you die, you're alone. So we're thankful for the people that we see along the way. We hope we could count on them. We let them know we're rooting for them. But we got to do what we can for ourselves. And if you're a mother or a father, that extends to doing what you can because you got a whole family. You got children. So I know my mom did what she could. In the end, I felt abandoned. I hate to have to tell y'all that, but it's my truth. In so many ways, I felt abandoned. Even when I started learning about these things, I feel like, dang, why didn't she know these things? Why couldn't she have taken the time to learn these things so that she could have lived longer to be in my life and my sister? It's sad, man. It's sad the thoughts and feelings we have. It's natural. It's realistic. There's nothing wrong with it. It's part of the healing, right? From the trauma. As I got into the human design, though, y'all, I realized that on my human design, I have an open root chakra or open root center. So I can't handle a lot of adrenaline. I have panic attacks because of that. That's probably the main reason I have panic attacks. So all this time I thought it was trauma, and I was trying to cope with being away from my mom because I had a sudden shock and scare and shaking of my foundation because my mom walked in one day after having been away at work and gone all day and me away and gone from her at school. I thought for some reason it caused trauma within me and made me scared to be away from her. You deal with feeling helpless. My dad was there the whole time. My dad is still in love with my mom. They were still married when she passed away. He was still there at the home, coming home every day, working every day, being active and present in his family's life. He wasn't a drinker. He wasn't into drugs. He wasn't a cheater, a philanthropist. He wasn't all that. So, I'm thankful. Um, but you, as a kid going through that, and even as an angry 20-year-old or person in their 20s who's angry at my mom dying suddenly, who's just angry. You're just mad at anything and everything. You find a reason to be mad because you're mad. And you feel like you should be mad. I ought to be mad. My mom is not here. These doctors gave her Oxycontin and Vicodin. Dateline and them said this could cause seizures. My question is, do y'all do long-term testing on drug combinations? I mean, I made a hit list. It was a spiritual hit list of the doctors. I was angry. I'm mad at the doctors. I'm mad at my dad, and you also aren't mad. I'm mad, but not mad at him. Nobody could help my mom. No matter how much money we had, no matter how much love we had, no matter how much hope, it didn't heal her. And as a child, you're like, dang, dad, you can't do anything. It's just sad, man. And I don't want that for you guys, but some of you are experiencing that now. You're going through it. Some of you don't know if you're going to live, and you're sad because you know your babies are going to be alone We're going to have to fight through this world without you. Amen. So it came a time in my life that all that pain, all of this was transformation. I went into a cocoon and I'm coming out a butterfly. I've learned to transmute that pain. I've learned to practice alchemy. It's still a journey. I'm still learning. Nobody's perfect, and I'm not either. And nobody's completely healed. I'm not completely healed, but there's hope and there is healing. And it's just a journey. We can't control the journey. We can't control the story we done made in our mind, how we want things to go. Just let it go. Life is lifing. We'll be all right. God exists. God is love. So I don't know. Do I need to make a part two, you guys? I feel like I want to wrap this up now. Did I address everything that we needed to be addressed, or do you guys feel like you want to hear more of the story? I don't know if there's too much more to the story. I just wanted to let you guys know about my mom's health and the quality of life that we all should have. We should have a higher quality of life. There's no existing just on pain pills and dozing in and out of sleep. And if you're just in pain, why are we alive? Why? We had to just take her off the ventilator because what kind of life would she have if she came back? Whether she was a vegetable or not, she's going to be back in pain. Why bring her back? It's just so sad, you guys. Got to make tough decisions in life. Got to consider the next person. My mom wouldn't have liked that. I couldn't see doing that to my mom, bringing her back just to be in pain again because the pain issue hadn't been fixed. But then also you might be a vegetable. Set her free. Farewell. She just transformed. Death, nothing dies. She just transformed and continued her journey on. She went on the rest of her journey. Okay, and I can say that now and not be angry or too sad, depressed. I can accept that now. And now I know what I would have did differently. I wish we had known about comfrey. It's called like the bone knitter. There's an herb called the bone knitter. They use it on horses when they break their bones. You could put that around a wound and it'll heal the cartilage and all that. See, I wish we had known that then. She could have been drinking comfrey tea, right? And some healing could have went on. I hate that she didn't know, and I want to do nothing more than to inform you guys so that you know. Okay? So that's what this is about. So thank you for being with me here at the Openly Occultic Podcast. I'm Fenecia. Have a great day. Wholeness and balance.